Good morning, my fellow yogic travelers. I'm mighty glad to be alive today, and I hope that you are too, as we continue to live, laugh, love, learn, linger, and live the life we love. It's Friday, so it's my little PowerPoint presentation. This is called Bhava. Bhava means mood or attitude or also ambience that you create. So the first key, of course, is yoga to me bridges psychology, religion, and medicine. So it's all about healing. And medicine to me is not just big pharma. It's whatever leads to wisdom and connection to the spirit, as symbolized in one image, the caduceus of Hermes, the healing rod of Asclepius, one of the famous healers. And you went to the therapy, the therapist. You went to the temple and slept there and had a dream, and then the therapist would interpret the dream for you. That's one kind of healing. But in my world, it's always translated back into the asana practice, as I learned from my teacher, using the horse here to find the center line of Ekapada Viparita Dhanasana. So his mindset was you got to practice whatever your discipline is daily without neglect or idleness. Be free from all dualities, internal splits, doubts, contentions. Release the idea of right and wrong, hard and easy, good and bad, and progress and dead in the water, and just commit yourself to the love of the art form. Now, part of what you learn in expanding your consciousness is there's plenty of space out there in the cosmos, and part of our job is to dwell in the immensity as human beings, even though it seems like we're a tiny speck. But there's plenty of room for spaciousness, or as I like to say to my friends who've heard this before, you got to get roomy in your head in order to hear roomy. Right. So teachers use a variety of tasks to take you from a concrete hands-on experience and move towards an abstract language, but always with an action. So in yoga, you go from asana to samadhi, something that is concrete that you can do with the postures or the breath control or the sitting meditation. And ultimately, it's helping you to define something that goes beyond words and concepts, but is a direct experience. Now, part of what's going to open us all up is sometimes we're allowed to cry because tears normalize brain chemistry. They clear our eyes out so we can see clearly what's up ahead. So in the school that I come, this is what's called yearning or crying, pining for the divine. Oh, Albert says some fascinating things. Blind obedience to authority is the greatest enemy of truth. If you can't see that little cartoon there, it says, ignoramuses, this is ignoramuses Rex, as ignorant as ignoramuses gets, with a body so big and a brain so small, nobody knows how he survives it all. It's fascinating that the human mind can, in some ways, be incredibly deep in its insight and intuition. Uh, and then on another level, it baffles us completely that we can have people who are so freaking stupid and dumb and dangerous. And that's who we are. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. But if you can't, then you're a useless piece of shit. Just joking, just joking. We all need encouragement to personal effort. But notice how close this is to the affirmation mantras I'm always trying to get across. The law of attraction. That which is like unto itself is drawn. So what are you doing? If you're believing you can't, you're drawing all those things to you that turn you off. And if you believe you can, then you can. Or as my friend Stephen Cohn would say, if you think so, then it is. All right. When setting out on the journey, do not seek advice from someone who never left home. That's the main thing. But if you don't set out in this way and engage yourself completely, you'll never be free from the sadness and the melancholy that weigh you down. Wow. That's a great thing. It's one of the things that keeps me going. But like a woman in travail, you forget the labor when the baby is born. No matter how difficult the path may seem, no matter how much it goes up and down, how we may fail in many times or being despairing, the end of it is the joy of a new birth. And I remember my early days in the hippie period in 1970 in California. I went to Steve Gaskin's class, and he was modeling for everybody the sober certainty of waking bliss. That's where you recognize you're cool, you're sane. As the phrase used to say, you know where it's at. And when you know where it's at, you realize no past myth is sufficient for moving ahead. So, what's the human role in the evolving cosmos? So, first is to accept the planetary view that we're all in this together. There's only one home, Earth, one family, human. And if we do that, we realize that we can link together, and ours is not only a moment of destruction, but of great promise. And that's what we have to look forward to. Through our internal intrinsic relatedness, we can build bonds, build bridges. If you don't feel this, you're not going to respond adequately. So that's why it's central to tell your story by poetry, music, song, dance, color. Like many indigenous people say, if we don't sing and dance, the universe falls into ruin. All right, so that's what I want to share with my PowerPoint statement for today. And I just want to leave you with my reminders from the Tibetan teachings that I've been sharing all week, which have a lot to do with trying to break through spiritual inflation. You think you're higher than you really are. And also spiritual materialism, collecting stuff on the path. But the Tibetans are always telling you to let go of any reference point outside of yourself, to give your ego some sense of solidity when it has no existence at all. And so what happens in our mind is we build up these spiritual fantasies. And in one side of our mind, the world is glorious, fantastic, miraculous. That's the one we want to be in. And the dangers of various kind of spiritual iconography, beautiful as the art forms is it kind of plants a seed that helps you reject the world and this environment for a better world, what I call the fictitious world of transcendental make-believe. And looking for that promised land and rejecting the reality of what life is, that's what's called spiritual materialism. So it's your life whether you like it or not. Make the best use of it. But first, the Buddhist teaching is going to take you into what I call the black hole of egolessness. Ready to go? Because the spiritual path is always going to comfort you, tell you to do something, make everything right, makes you feel better, makes you feel like you're a better person. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the flip side is to see how big ego, how ego driven that whole thing is. So don't accept or reject, just simply be. Things have their own place. There's no need for you to try to fit them into some kind of slot as if it's higher, greater, better, further, clearer, cleaner, holier. So instead of reshaping the whole world according to your own ideas, there's plenty of room for us to play, see reality as it is. No highfalutin visions. Finding a halfway point between the eternalists and the nihilists, and then move through life as peacefully as you can with what I call the activity of non-aggression. And bring whatever love you have in your heart to everything you do.